Jane Gloriana Villanueva, in the popular TV show called Jane the Virgin, was first taught about sex by her abuela, who had her hold a beautiful white flower in her hand, telling her it symbolized virtue and purity. She then instructed Jane to crush the flower, making the petals wilt and turn brown. She warned Jane that if she was foolish enough to have sex before marriage, this is what would happen to her virtue. It's common for parents and leaders to feel the need to focus on the consequences of sexual sin, or the don'ts, when teaching children and teens about sexuality. However, research has shown that a focus on this aspect can be damaging and have lasting consequences for those who are taught. I currently work as a teaching assistant for the Healthy Sexuality in Marriage class, and I have become very passionate about this topic. I want to show that there is a better way to teach about sex than what is most commonly used today in our culture. I'll first talk about some of the methods that are commonly used to teach about sexuality and the consequences of these methods. I'll then talk about 3 ways that we can change now in our own spheres of influence to provide better instruction when teaching about this sacred topic. So the first method I'll discuss, which is primarily used by parents, is avoidance. I recently sent out a survey asking respondents to tell me a little bit about the way that they were taught about sex growing up. The results indicated that 60% of respondents said that one or both of their parents never or rarely talked with them about sexuality, which I defined as intercourse, changing body or puberty, sexual feelings, etc. Behavioral scientist Lydia O'Donnell and her colleagues discussed that it's common for parents to think that if they give their children information about sex, their children will become curious and want to experiment. However, O'Donnell has done a lot of research showing that this simply isn't the case, but that the opposite is true. Indeed, children who are given more information about healthy sex tend to participate in less sexual experimentation and risk behaviors. When parents fail to teach their children about sexuality, it sends a message that such a topic is taboo, thus leading the children to feel that it's wrong to come to their parents with the questions that they naturally will have. Another method often used by church leaders is the use of metaphors. A textbook entitled Sexual Wholeness in Marriage details common metaphors used by well-meaning church leaders, especially when teaching the law of chastity. One such is fear-based metaphors, which typically compare sex to something being damaged or made unclean, such as crushing a beautiful flower or passing around an unwrapped cupcake, or hammering nails into a board, removing the nails, but making a point to show that those holes will always be there. This metaphor unintentionally conveys to young minds that sex is something that harms us, a bad thing. And it also leaves Christ, his atonement, repentance, and healing completely out of the equation. Dr. Laura Brotherson explains that a common consequence of this type of teaching is something called the good girl syndrome, which is the negative thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes and behaviors that inhibit one's responsiveness and enjoyment of the sexual relationship in marriage. This is manifest as feelings of shame, guilt, embarrassment, or discomfort in sex, which surely has a negative impact on the sexual relationship. These negative effects can be avoided, and thankfully there are ways that we can change. The first step is to take an honest look at your own views and beliefs about sexuality. Are they primarily positive or more focused on the negative? Second, after this self-reflection, educate yourself. Take the Healthy Sexuality in Marriage class. Read one of the many helpful books about healthy sexuality that's focused on doctrine as well as research. Explore the church's new website focused on how to teach about sexual intimacy. And lastly, commit now, in whatever circumstances you are in, to become approachable and accurate, comfortable and centered on healthy sexuality when teaching this topic. Child development scholars suggest to begin teaching children about the capabilities of their bodies at a young age, giving age-appropriate, positive information about healthy sexuality, discussing this topic in everyday interactions. Therapists suggest to avoid using metaphors but explain this topic openly, encouraging questions and becoming comfortable enough that it's portrayed with the right tone. This is the better way to teach about sex. We have a sacred responsibility and opportunity to help the rising generation create a positive, gospel-driven understanding about sexual intimacy. I know that such a positive focus on such a wonderfully divine thing is crucial. Thank you.